One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair. Hey guys, welcome back to It's Not About Your Hair, where we talk all things hair, heart, and happiness. I'm glad you're here today. I hope you tuned in last week where I shared some summer practices for that was motivation if you have kids, or you could do that for yourself if it's summertime and you need to get motivated. But it was a really great one if you have kids and you struggle with expectations. Today, I'm going to talk about something. I had a client last week who sat in my chair, or the week before that, and I had posted a quick story on my Instagram. If you're not following me, check it out, Boss the Curl Boss. And I had posted a quick story about a daily practice that I do. If you're watching, my little prayer box. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Casey, I've been doing that and it helped me so much." And it was like a 3-second story, and if it helped her, I thought, "Golly, we should make it a podcast episode because sometimes you don't know the things that you're doing that could help somebody else, and that's what this is all about." And so this week's episode, I'm gonna talk about why I use the prayer box, how to do it, and how fun it is to let go of what we cannot control. I'm going to repeat that, to let go of what we cannot control. So last week we talked about the kids and raising the kids and setting the goals and having the control. And a lot of times I talk about moving into the power of what God has told you, the purpose that you have for your life, how to overcome the negative thinking. But there's a piece that I think's been missing in our podcast journey, which is what about when it's all crappy? Or what about when you do all the right things and have the family meetings and cool camp? No one wants to see you. My cat just walked through. Have the family meetings and things still go wrong or bad, right? So I think that the prayer box has been a way for me to release that control. And it's been really helpful. And so I'm going to share my practice with you. I'm going to share where it came from, why I do it, and how I do it in hopes that uh, this episode will help you to let it go. So let's get started. So I'm going to use a scripture reference here, you guys, about where this came from and what really, why I do this. So I tend to be an over controller. I think a lot of my life, as most of us, has felt like it's been out of my control. Things have happened to me that I didn't want to happen. And so I'm pretty good at making a goal, having the steps like I did last week when we talked about what's the one thing I want to learn, how am I going to do it, and why is it important? Because it keeps me tied to that vision, knowing where I'm going. And I feel like sometimes in my prayer life, it was just me rubbing the genie bottle, hoping that Genie Jesus was going to fix my problem, that Genie Jesus was going to make it better because that's what Genie Jesus did. And what I've learned is that's not who God is. That's not who Jesus is. That even though I love Jesus and I call myself a Christian or a person of the way, I've still had really bad things happen in my life. I have had people that I love die, even when I prayed that they wouldn't. I have had businesses lost. I've had kids who have struggled. Uh, all the while, I have not lost my faith. In fact, my faith hasn't been the thing, you guys, that has answered my prayers. My faith has been the thing that's given me things to pray for. And ultimately, the longer that I am a Christian, I think the more I realize that my faith is the thing that I hold on to when life is happening, if that makes sense. Um, Life is happening, you guys. And the longer we're on this planet, the more of life is going to happen to us, which means inevitably things are going to get harder. Uh, the longer we're here, the more things we're going to lose or gain. And for me, faith ties me to a greater purpose, whether that's in my life here or in eternity. And so I just want to share about the prayer box, and you can use this. I think it is God. I think there is a creator. I think he's exceptionally full of wisdom and creativity and care and love. And because of that, I can call on him and he sees me, he hears me, he desires to know. What prayer is not is a rubbing genie that gives me what I want. It's a surrender. And I'll tell you why. So Philippians 4, 4 through 4:9. Okay. I'm going to read it all because I really love it. And for a long period of my life, you guys, I had a scripture that I just said over and over again. And it was a small portion of this one. And I'll tell you what it is after I read it. And I needed that because a few episodes ago, we talked about taking our thoughts captive. And I was such an anxious person that I needed something to change the anxious thoughts in my head. And so I took them captive when I would feel an anxious or negative thought coming in. And instead, I would start praying. I would pray this particular verse: be anxious for nothing, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to the Lord. And then the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard your heart and mind. It was a promise that God would give us peace in uncertainty if we surrendered it to him. But I think often we just want God to fix it, not to give us peace. So here we go. Philippians 4. Uh, what did I say? 4 starting. Always be full of joy in the Lord. I say it again, rejoice. Let everyone see that you are considerate in all you do. Remember, the Lord is coming. Don't worry. So here's the big part. Don't worry about anything. Anything. Instead, pray about everything. Everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your heart and mind as you live in Christ Jesus. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing: fix your thoughts on what is true, on what is honorable, on what is right, on what is pure, on what is lovely, and what is admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you have learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. That's a lot of promises. And none of it says, I will eradicate the suffering that you're having. I will make the way straight so that you will not have any pain. It says that in all of it, I will be with you. The creator of the universe promises to stay with us, to give us peace. But often we don't get the peace because we don't follow through with the beginning. So the beginning says, do not worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for what he has done. So if you're watching, I have this prayer box, and you don't need a box. I personally prefer to write things down. There's an act of submission that happens for me when I put the note card in the box and I fill it out and I write down my thing, I date it, and I put it in here. I just use these index cards. It's a reminder for me that once it goes in here, I can choose to continue to worry about it, or I can trust that God has got it and that I do not. Everything in this box is wishes, dreams, hopes, visions, promises, cares, doubts, fears, insecurities, resentments, anger, unforgiveness, all of the things inside of me that I cannot control, I put in here in my gratitudes. So, what I love about this, you guys, is it says, do not worry about anything. Instead, so when we choose to worry, this is the part of taking it captive. When I'm worrying, Instead, I can tell God what I need and thank Him for what He has done. So telling Him what I need, but then thanking Him for what He's already brought me through is so important because I think we forget how far we've come or what we've already went through. And there's a book called The Body Keeps Score, and we remember the really hard things, the trauma that we felt, the hurts that we've had. They're so deep inside of us that those tend to rise up. But the Bible's telling us to rise up what God has already done in our lives. So, yes, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, you guys. Yes, I've had a business that's failed and almost had to file bankruptcy and didn't know where my house payment has come from. But the flip side of that coin is I have learned how to weather really hard storms, how to ask for help, how to trust God. And now my business is flourishing and really good, but that doesn't mean that it will always be in this season. But I think that I won't ever go back to this season because I have learned how to handle hard seasons. Tell God what I need. I thank Him that He has delivered me already from that. I trust that He has a plan for my life that brings Him glory and goodness to me. I trust that all the time it says that He's at work. And then you will experience the peace of God that exceeds anything you understand. Not that you will not struggle. And I think that that's so important. Recently, had two really important people in my life pass away, and I shared about that. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I will tell you that for me, not understanding the why sometimes goes in here, goes in here. It doesn't mean that I don't have doubts. The doubts go in the box too, you guys, because I want to be on the lookout for the miracles of God. Why do some die and some get saved? I don't know, but God does. And I believe that there's a plan in that. And I believe that my life goes beyond today. And I believe that even in my death, I pray that the ripple effect of the goodness of God, the peace of God, will be resounding in my life. And there was a time in my life where I called myself a Christian, but none of my life was surrendered to God's plan or His will. And the truth is, none of us get out of this life alive. So it has to be about more than just our own personal gain. There has to be something about, have you ever been around somebody who just exudes joy or peace? Or better yet, have you been around somebody who doesn't? And they're anxious and frustrated and angry. And um, there's a promise that we don't have to be like that. And then there's one more step further. So it tells us that we can worry about nothing, but instead, click it over. We have to talk to God, tell Him what we need, and thank Him for what He's done. And then we'll have some peace. And then, furthermore, once we have that peace, the way to keep it, one final thought it says in Philippians 4:8, one final thought is fix your thoughts on what is true. I have to remind myself this is part of taking that thought captive. What is true? And I learned this a long time ago in therapy. And what's true for me right now is really, really important practice that I use. So when I'm feeling overly anxious or feeling really overwhelmed about the world, what is true is first I check in with me. How am I? Physically, emotionally, spiritually? What's happening with me? Am I good? I am good. Then I can take it out the next step. What is true? How is my family? What's going on? Do I see God at work in them? Are they moving forward? Is there something that they need that I can help with? Deep breath. It is okay. You know what? And it might not be okay. Like when I say it is okay, it doesn't mean that everybody is okay. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect, but I know what I can help with and I know what I can put into this box as I check in with myself first. Because if I'm empty, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So I check in with myself first and I pray about what I need to. I do what I can and I let go of what I can't. Then my family, how are they? What can I do? What can I not do? But in everything through prayer, put it in the box and let it go because we can either, I believe, and it's a practice, a spiritual practice. If we continue to worry about it and we worry more than we surrender, we have not trusted God. And we only get the promise of God when we trust God. So maybe it's a little bit, maybe it's a like my daughter's running track right now and she does a relay and they have to hand off, and a smooth handoff makes the race go a lot better. So I've been in times in my life where the handoff isn't good. I'm not linked up with God. I'm running out ahead. I'm doing the things. But when we master the handoff, doesn't mean we've mastered life, but it's this practice. So this is my handoff. The prayer box, you guys, if you're watching or listening and not watching, the box is my baton handoff. So the personal check in, what's happening with me first, not the world first, not the crazy out there. What's happening with me? Am I okay? What can I do to help myself be okay? What do I need to surrender? How can I get help? Okay. What am I grateful for today? Today, I'm grateful for flipping summer is here. Grateful for that. I'm grateful for learning to relax about the podcast and just feeling like I can be with you guys, and that feels really good. I'm grateful I just got off a phone call with my brother, who I don't get to talk to very much. Super duper duper grateful for that. Um, and what am I surrendering? Quite a few things right now, actually. A lot of new business thoughts for my husband and I. Uh, got a kid coming home from Arizona that I don't exactly know. Anyways, I could give you all my personal jargon. Do you care? Anyways, that goes in the box. So check in with me, check in with my family, then I check in with my community, right? So your community is the people that you spend time with, your church, your neighborhood, your friend group, your town, where are you connected, your work, all of these things. So these is the third layer of check-in. And I take a deep breath and I say, what's going well, Lord, in this area? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for my community. Thank you so much for the people here. This is the need I have for that. Help me to know where I'm needed today. Help me to know what person needs my help. Help me to step up into an area that I've been afraid to step into. And Lord, I'm feeling really anxious that I'm trying to think if there's anything in my specific community. One of my very bestest friends from my church that has been in my life for 20 years, her husband just had a heart attack and he's in the hospital. And we've seen the testimonies at church on Sunday about all the things that have already happened in the middle of something really bad. So he had a massive heart attack, CPR for 12 minutes, and he's doing miraculously well. Even the nurses can't believe it. So the peace of God that passes all understanding will guard your heart. And we said, even we call him Farmer Bob, but even Bob is testifying to the glory of God by doing nothing but being in that bed. So sometimes it's surrender. So in my immediate community, I'm going to pray for that need, that he would be healed, that God would continue to be seen, that my friend Cheryl would have peace, like trusting, and then watching as the community around them. A couple of my friends, Dave and Jessica, are taking care of their animals on the farm, and Bob's got a big family, and my daughter Sophie's going to help start nannying for their great. Like, you don't see how it's at work when you trust and pray instead of worry, okay? But I'm still worried about Bob. So that goes in the box because I trust God. Okay. And then after your community, you go into your state and into the world. Do you see how this is different? Because often the news and social media want us to believe that everything's really bad, and we start on the outside of our inner circle, and then by the time it gets to us, we're a frazzled freaking mess because we haven't dealt with starting first things first. So you and God, you and your family, you and your community, you and your state, and you in the world. What can I do at a giant level with the things that are happening in the world? I don't really know. But those big things can make me nervous. Is it global warming? Is it climate change? Is the world coming to an end? Is it the second coming of Jesus? Is that actually what? Who knows? Literally, I have zero clue in the dang box. Because here's the truth, at the end of the day, I have no control over global warming. One micro step I could make is recycling. So that is something I can do that I can control. The next thing is I cannot sit at home and be worried and build a bunker at this moment in my life because of something that may or may not happen, you guys, in the box. Because then the peace, then I get peace from God. Like, even if this is the last week of my life, God has still been so, so, so good to me. It is a transition or a handoff of my emotional state and my willingness to surrender my life to God. So this goes out for my friend Jody. I hope you're listening. How do we implement the prayer box? And what she said is she was so surprised at how much it helped her to write this down. And it can take a minute in the morning, you guys. Something I need today, Lord. Something I'm grateful for today, Lord. And um, help me to not be anxious so that I can see the hands of you in my life and something I can control today. My God, we have far more power than we think. And the power of Christ is in you if you're a believer. If you're not, you might want to get you some because it's powerful. Um, but Camp, my cat is so needy. But I hope that this helped you today. I hope that if you're in one of those transitional moments where you're not feeling okay, this gives you some clarity on how to get okay. That you are moving the needle forward one step at a time, that we're doing this together, that you're not alone, that there are people that are praying for you and care about you, and that this was just a reminder that you are god dang worthy of love, that every day you're alive is a gift. The world needs you. You are special and important, and so is every single person that you see today. They are worthy of love. They are special and important. They have an important job to do. And I hope that you stay focused on that love and you stay in that light because there ain't nothing that can put the darkness out of such a beautiful light. I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.